Imagine for a second that you're just scrolling online, right?
Mm-hmm. Mindlessly swiping.
Exactly. Mindlessly swiping through your feed, and you see an ad to buy a house on this sun-drenched, remote Greek island.
Sound perfect.
Right. And the price is exactly the cost of a single shot of espresso. €1.
Oh, wow. €1.
€1. For a moment, it feels like this ultimate escape hatch.
Yeah, the dream.
So you pack a single suitcase, you leave your entire complicated life behind, and you step into this pristine, sun-baked sanctuary.
Or so you think.
Right, or so you think, because when you finally arrive to claim your Mediterranean paradise, you don't find a blank slate.
Not at all.
You find a crumbling, roofless ruin. And as you start tearing into the walls to rebuild, you don't just find, like, old plumbing.
No, you find something much darker.
Way darker. You find the blood-stained saber of a murdered soldier buried in the garden.
Yep.
And a silver medal stamped with a Nazi swastika just sealed inside the chimney.
It's just wild.
It is. So today we are tearing up the floorboards of Izzy Broom's The House of Hidden Letters.
Such a great read.
It really is. It's her 13th novel, and notably, her first published simply under the name Izzy.
Right.
Our mission in this deep dive is to dissect how physical spaces absorb, hide, and eventually purge human trauma.
Which she captures so beautifully.
She really does. We're going to put two vastly different timelines under the microscope. We have the 2025 modern-day pursuit of psychological escapism, and we're contrasting that with the brutal, visceral mechanics of the 1940s World War II occupation on the remote Greek island of Foligandros.
It is a stunning architectural and psychological collision, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we tend to view our homes as these empty containers, right? Just waiting for our lives to fill them.
Like a blank canvas.
Exactly. But what Broom forces us to confront is this concept of architectural memory.
Ooh, architectural memory. I like that.
Right. We are looking at a historical period where sanctuary was violently stripped away by an occupying force.
Right, during the war.
And that's juxtaposed against a modern timeline where people are desperately trying to build sanctuary from the very rubble left behind.
Okay, let's unpack this premise, because the hook is incredibly visceral.
It really pulls you in immediately.
It does. So you have the municipality of Foligandros offering 6 abandoned houses in this hillside village called Anna Maria.
For €1 each.
For €1 each. It's this lottery scheme designed to repopulate a dying village.
Which is a real thing, by the way. Towns do this.
They do, like in Italy and Spain. But the catch here is steep. Winners must commit to living on this wind-battered island for a minimum of 2 years.
That's a long time.
And they have to renovate these ruins completely out of their own pockets.
Yep, out of pocket.
And strictly adhering to the traditional Cycladic architectural style.
Which is not cheap or easy.
Not at all.
Hey.
And we experience all of this through our modern protagonist, Skye.
Right, Skye.
She's this British woman who arrives a day early. She has no job waiting for her back home. She's packed almost nothing.
Just a tiny bag, basically.
Basically. And she is vibrating with the kind of nervous energy that tells you she isn't just traveling.
She is fleeing.
Exactly. She is running away.
What's fascinating here is how the novel weaponizes the concept of rebuilding as a literal mechanism for psychological recovery.
Oh, totally.
Skye isn't just mixing cement or, sourcing whitewash. She is rebuilding herself.
Yeah, brick by brick.
But the true gravity of this setup lies in the historical context of these specific 6 houses.
The history is crazy.
It is. They haven't been lived in since the end of the Second World War.
80 years.
80 years. That presents the central glaring anomaly of our deep dive today.
Right.
Communities do not simply abandon structurally sound homes en masse without a profound catalyst.
They just don't. You don't just leave a perfectly good house.
Exactly. Why did an entire village population flee these properties in the middle of the night?
Leaving everything behind.
Everything.
Yeah.
And just allow them to crumble to the elements for 80 years.
That is the multi-million-dollar question. And the weight of that question hits Skye the absolute second she steps off the ferry.
Because the reality is harsh.
So harsh. Because the fantasy of the €1 house immediately crashes into the brutal physics of reality.
Oh, completely.
If you put yourself in Skye's shoes for a minute, the sensory overload is intense. Foligandros is known historically as the Iron Isle.
It's not a gentle place.
It is not a soft place at all. The heat is fierce, almost predatory.
And dry.
Very dry. You smell pulverized dung. In town, Cora, which is that classic, pristine, whitewashed, cycladic postcard you see on Instagram.
The tourist view.
Exactly. But then she travels up to the hillside village of Anna Maria to find her specific house.
And it's a different world.
It is desolate. The roof has completely caved in.
Gone.
There are literal piles of animal droppings in what used to be the garden. It is a hostile environment.
It really is. The environment immediately shatters the romantic illusion of the geographic cure.
The geographic cure.
Yeah, there is this documented psychological phenomena
Right.
where people believe that relocating to a beautiful place will magically reset their internal emotional state.
Oh, right. Like, if I just move to Hawaii, I won't be depressed anymore.
Exactly. But escapism looks great on a highly curated travel blog.
Right.
But the reality on the Iron Isle is blistered, bleeding hands.
Zero electricity.
Zero. And sleeping on a deflating air mattress over damp, rotting floorboards.
That sounds miserable.
It is. Foligandros demands biological and psychological resilience just to endure the climate.
Which brings us to Andreas Vitokas.
Ah, Andreas.
He's the local Greek contractor living down in Karavastasis near the port.
He's great.
He's the guy tasked with making sure these ruins are at least structurally capable of being renovated before the lottery winners show up.
Which is a massive job.
Huge. And I love his early interactions with Skye because they are so deeply pragmatic.
Very practical.
He brings her a toaster. He brings her a stick blender, which he adamantly insists is the only acceptable way to make a proper Greek frappe.
He's not wrong about the frappe.
True. But the point is, he isn't bringing her flowers or welcome baskets.
No, he's bringing her survival tools.
Exactly.
Andreas is the anchor to reality. He embodies this ancient Greek concept of philoxenia.
Philoxenia.
Yeah, it translates to the love of strangers, or basically hospitality.
Oh, I like that.
But it's a hospitality stripped of sentimentality. He understands the mechanics of the island.
He knows how brutal it can be.
Right. He knows that if Skye doesn't consume enough calories, or if she doesn't understand how the wind shears across the hillsides,
She's done for.
she will fail. He represents the sheer, grueling physical labor required to actually exist in that space.
I look at these €1 schemes, and we see them in real life, right? In places like rural Italy or Spain.
All the time.
And I honestly see a beautifully packaged nightmare.
A nightmare.
It's like buying a vintage sports car site unseen online.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Right, you're picturing yourself driving down the coast with the wind in your hair,
And so cool.
completely ignoring the fact that the transmission is shot and the floorboards are rusted through.
You're just buying a problem.
You think you're buying a breezy new lifestyle, but you are actually purchasing a second agonizing full-time job.
It really is.
So I look at Skye, who is clearly running from deep emotional wreckage, and I have to wonder, why on earth would someone fleeing trauma willingly subject themselves to this level of exhaustion?
It's a great question.
Like, do we secretly want the grueling physical punishment to distract us?
Well, it looks like a nightmare if your primary goal is comfort.
True.
But you have to look at the neurobiology of extreme manual labor.
Okay, lay it on me.
When someone is trapped in a cycle of severe psychological trauma, their brain is constantly misfiring.
Right, like hypervigilance.
Exactly. Caught in loops of abstract dread and panic, but engaging in rhythmic, heavy physical labor, like swinging a sledgehammer or mixing heavy aggregate.
Laying floorboards.
Yeah. It actually mimics the bilateral stimulation used in advanced trauma therapies like EMDR.
Wait, really? Just doing manual labor?
Yes. It forces the nervous system to ground itself in the present moment. You cannot spiral about your past when your muscles are screaming in localized pain and you have to focus on driving a nail straight.
Wow, I never thought about it like that.
The pain in the body eclipses the chaos in the mind. For Skye, this renovation isn't a chore.
It's medicine.
It is a highly structured neurochemical anesthetic. Every crack she fills with mortar is a physical proxy for creating a boundary in her own shattered psyche.
That makes total sense. She is manually rewiring her brain through exhaustion.
Literally rewiring it.
But the municipality didn't just give the houses to isolated individuals.
No, they didn't.
They gave them to 6 different winners to force a community.
And what a group it is.
What a bizarre cross-section of humanity it is. You have Joy, this incredibly loud, effusive Australian artist.
He's great.
But she is drowning in grief because her husband Bobby died suddenly in a surfing accident.
That's right.
Then you have 3 red-headed sisters from Bristol Dusty, who is the intense DIY fanatic of the group.
Dusty is intense.
Very. along with Mia and Louisa. Then you have Victoria and Adam Beaumont.
Ah, the Beaumonts.
Right, this wealthy couple from Park Avenue who seem to be treating this entire grueling experience as a quirky, temporary playground for their own amusement.
It's a highly volatile social experiment, honestly.
Right, really.
And you have to factor in the locals they inevitably collide with. People like Clody and Cora.
At the mini market.
Yeah, they run the village mini market, which acts as the de facto intelligence hub of Onomiria.
They know everything.
Everyone's business.
Yeah.
And Theo, an English-Greek writer who's raising his young son, George, completely alone.
Because his wife Deirdre abandoned them.
Right.
And Deirdre didn't just leave, she literally sold their house out from under them and vanished without a forwarding address.
Just unbelievable.
It is a stunning level of betrayal.
It is absolute devastation.
Yeah.
But if we analyze the psychology of this specific demographic, a glaring pattern emerges. If you look at the motivations of these expatriates, almost every single one of them is running from a collapsing life rather than running to a new opportunity.
Oh, that's so true.
Joy is running from the sudden, violent vacuum of grief. Theo is running from the humiliation and financial ruin of abandonment.
The sisters are running from the complex aftermath of losing their mother.
Exactly. And Skye is running from a terror we don't yet fully see at this point.
Right, still a secret.
The architects of the lottery wanted to build a quaint community. But on Folegandros, community isn't a luxury or, like, a social club.
It's survival.
Yes. In an environment that hostile, communal reliance is the fundamental mechanism for survival. If they don't form a cohesive unit, the isolation and the elements will literally break them.
But the thing about isolation is that it forces you to look closely at your immediate surroundings. And once these misfit expats start physically tearing down the walls of their ruins, the historical insulation comes down with it.
You can't hide from it.
You can't gut a house without seeing the skeleton underneath.
No, you can't.
The transition from modern escapism to historical reckoning starts small.
Very subtle.
Skye is up in her sweltering attic assessing the damage, and she notices a solitary letter carved deeply and neatly into a wooden supporting strut.
Just one letter.
Just the letter K.
That carving is a profound architectural artifact.
Really? Just a K?
Yes, because it isn't random damage. Someone stood in that exact spot, likely decades ago, applied pressure to a blade, and laid claim to the space.
Oh, wow. I see what you mean.
It immediately shifts the paradigm of the house. It proves the building wasn't always a ruin. It was an intimate sanctuary. It was known. It was loved.
And that single K is just the first domino.
It starts a chain reaction.
It does. The discoveries ripple out to the neighbors. Dusty, the DIY-obsessed sister, is digging a trench in her garden to build an extension.
Right.
Her shovel hits something metallic and heavy. She unearths an antique saber.
Which is terrifying to just find in your yard.
But it's not just an old military relic. There is a stubborn, dark stain crusted onto the blade near the hilt.
Yep.
Andreas examines it and points out the uncomfortable truth. Based on the oxidation and the location of the stain, it is highly likely to be blood.
Which entirely changes the psychological profile of the land.
Oh, completely.
Because a carved initial is an assertion of identity. But a buried, blood-stained weapon.
That's a crime scene.
That is an act of sheer panic. It implies sudden violence, terror, and the desperate, urgent need to conceal evidence.
The soil itself is holding on to a crime.
Exactly.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Skye and Andreas are working on the main floor of her house, tackling this haphazardly bricked-up fireplace.
Such a messy job.
They are knocking out the stones, choking on 80 years of accumulated dust, and Andreas shoves his brush up into the throat of the chimney.
And then
Something heavy dislodges and falls into the hearth.
a burlap sack.
A burlap sack. They open it up, and inside is a thick bundle of letters, meticulously bound with twine.
Untouched for decades.
They were dated 1940, and they are addressed to someone named Katerina Thedaris.
The solitary K carved in the attic suddenly gains a human identity.
Exactly. The house is speaking to them. And it doesn't stop there.
Not at all.
Folegandros sits on a highly active fault line, and minor earthquakes are common.
Just another fun feature of the island.
Right. So a tremor hits the island, and the structural integrity of the wall on Skye's second-floor landing gives way. A section of the stone collapses inward.
What she finds.
Hidden deep inside the hollow cavity of that wall, Skye discovers another concealed pouch.
It's not as chilling.
It is terrifying.
Yeah.
It contains a set of Italian military dog tags belonging to a soldier named Giulio Muti.
Right.
a delicate gold cross on a chain, and, most horrifyingly, a solid silver medal stamped with a Nazi swastika.
This raises an important question, perhaps the most vital question of our entire analysis, regarding the mechanics of hidden history.
Okay, what is it?
We have to look at the behavioral logic of the people who lived in that house in the 1940s. Yes. Why were these incredibly dangerous items? The intimate letters, the dog tags of a foreign soldier, a Nazi medal sealed behind heavy stone and stuffed into the dark recesses of a chimney.
Because if you're caught with those...
If you possess items that could get you executed by an occupying army, the logical protocol is destruction.
You burn the letters?
You burn them.
Ha!
You throw the dog tags and the medal off the cliffs of the Iron Isle into the bottomless Aegean Sea.
Yeah, you get rid of them immediately.
Hiding them inside the very walls of your own home is a highly deliberate act of preservation.
Oh, wow.
It signifies a desperate, agonizing need for the truth to eventually be unearthed.
They wanted someone to find it.
Katerina, or whoever entombed these items, operated under the assumption that they themselves would not survive the war to testify to what happened.
That is so dark.
So they conscripted the architecture, they turned the house into a permanent, silent witness.
They weaponized the real estate against their oppressors by turning it into a time capsule. And those letters, translated first by Andreas and later meticulously by Theo, become our chronological bridge.
They pull us right into the past.
They pull us out of the 2025 renovations and plunge us directly into Katerina's war.
The 1940s timeline.
We are introduced to the historical timeline, and the contrast is breathtaking. Katerina is an 18-year-old goat herder.
She's amazing.
She is not a fragile victim. She is an absolute force of nature. There is this vividly depicted sequence early on where she scales a notoriously treacherous, jagged mountain face completely barefoot. Barefoot. She does this solely to rescue her little three-legged goat, Chrissy.
That barefoot ascent is a perfect psychological baseline for Katerina.
How so?
It demonstrates her intrinsic connection to the topography of Folegandros. She possesses immense physical capability, but more importantly, it establishes her fierce, uncompromising instinct to protect the vulnerable beings under her care.
No matter the risk to herself.
Regardless of the personal risk.
Yeah.
And strategically, this is the exact moment she crosses paths with Stephanos.
Yes, Stephanos. He is the man who signs his letters with the simple initial S.
The resistance fighter.
He is a Greek resistance fighter operating in the shadows, and he happens to witness Katerina's reckless, magnificent climb.
He's just watching her scale this cliff.
He is utterly captivated by her raw defiance. They fall intensely in love, but because of the creeping shadow of the occupation, it has to be kept entirely secret.
They can't let anyone know.
In one of their clandestine meetings, Katerina rows Stephanos out to the Chrysospelia cave.
Oh, this scene.
This isn't just a hole in the rock. It's a massive, hidden coastal chamber dripping with ancient stalactites.
It's stunning.
But the detail that struck me the most is that the limestone walls of this cave are covered in ancient painted names and inscriptions that historians date all the way back to the 4th century BC.
Real historical fact, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible. Katerina and Stephanos take pigment and paint their own names right alongside them.
Just adding to the history.
So I have to ask you, looking at the narrative architecture, why include this highly specific archaeological detail? What is the function of those ancient names?
It is a masterclass in establishing thematic scale.
Okay, expand on that.
By guiding Stephanos to Chrysospelia and adding their names to a wall that has held human signatures for over 2 millennia, Katerina is forcibly expanding the timeline.
Right.
She is connecting the immediate, terrifying, hyper-local reality of the impending World War II occupation, not just to the present day of 2025, but deep into classical antiquity.
Tying it all together.
It is a visual proof to the listener that the core mechanics of the human condition, the experience of profound love, the terror of annihilation,
The need to be remembered.
yes, the desperate screaming key to be remembered, the concept of it has to last forever, these are absolute constants.
That's beautiful.
Empires rise, fascist regimes fall, the geography is ravaged by earthquakes.
Yeah.
But the psychological impulse to leave a permanent mark,
To say, I was here.
to declare to the universe, I existed and I loved, that functions exactly the same in 400 BC as it does in 1940.
And as it does when Skye signs her lottery contract in 2025.
Exactly.
I existed and I loved. That thought is so powerful, especially knowing the avalanche of suffering that is about to hit them.
Because it gets really bad.
Because that love is immediately subjected to the sheer crushing brutality of the Axis occupation.
The occupation was horrific.
As we delve into Katerina's translated letters, the mechanics of war in Greece are laid bare. It isn't just soldiers shooting at soldiers.
No, it's a war on civilians.
It is the systemic, calculated starvation of a civilian population. The historical reality of the Great Famine in Greece during 1941 and 1942 was apocalyptic.
Just utterly devastating.
In the letters, Katerina documents the famine becoming so absolute that she witnesses villagers resorting to eating glue just to put something in their stomach.
Eating glue. It's hard to even fathom.
The social contract completely disintegrates. In one of the most horrifying scenes, a woman literally starves to death and collapses in the middle of the road.
And then,
Before her body is even cold, a young boy from the village swoops in and steals a silver meander brooch right off her corpse.
that moment is a terrifying study in sociological collapse.
Why is that specific theft so significant?
Well, the meander symbol in Greek culture traditionally represents infinity, eternal love, and the complex labyrinth of life.
Okay.
To see that sacred symbol stripped from a corpse by a starving child in exchange for a theoretical crust of bread, it illustrates exactly how engineered starvation operates.
It breaks everything down.
It systematically strips away thousands of years of societal norms, ethics, and basic human dignity. It reduces complex communal networks to their most primal, ruthless biological imperatives.
Survival at any cost.
Katerina writes about this with terrifying clarity. She observes how the agonizing physics of hunger completely obliterate the lines between neighbor and enemy.
Yet, within that vacuum of morality, you see incredible, almost incomprehensible acts of bravery.
You do. Humanity still peeks through.
Katerina and her older sister, Lenny, who runs the village bakery and is deeply embedded in the community, they take on a lethal risk.
A huge risk.
Stefano secretly brings them a young Jewish refugee named Esther, whose parents have already been murdered by the occupying forces.
And they hide her.
But they don't just hide her in a cellar, they hide her in plain sight.
Which is so brilliant but so dangerous.
They chop off Esther's hair, dress her in rough clothing, and reintroduce her to the village as a teenage boy named Kosnas.
The disguise.
To complete the illusion, they wrap her arm in a heavy sling, tricking the German and Italian soldiers into assuming she is just a local boy incapacitated by a severe injury.
The mechanics of that deception are extraordinary. It is an act of supreme psychological warfare against the occupiers.
Because if they were caught,
The doctrine of collective punishment meant that the penalty for harboring a Jewish refugee wasn't just the execution of Katerina and Lenny.
it would be the whole village.
It would likely mean the burning of the entire village. But it highlights the vital, often overlooked nature of the domestic resistance.
The women's resistance.
Exactly. While the men like Stephanos are up in the mountains waging a kinetic, guerrilla war against the military columns.
The women are at home.
The women are waging a domestic war of preservation. They're maintaining the infrastructure of humanity right under the noses of absolute barbarism.
What really breaks my heart about Katerina's letters is understanding the medium itself.
The fact that they were never sent?
Right. The mail service on Foligandros was completely suspended by the Axis forces to prevent communication.
Cut off from the world.
Katerina is pouring her soul into these letters, knowing with absolute certainty that Stefanos cannot read them. There is no postal worker coming.
It's tragic.
It reminds me of that modern phenomenon where people continue to leave voicemails on the cell phone of a loved one who has passed away or whose number is disconnected. It isn't about transmitting data. It's an act of maintaining sanity through simulated connection.
She is talking into the void.
She is talking into the void to keep the void from consuming her.
That is precisely how the psychology of journaling under trauma works. The act of writing becomes a neurological tether.
A tether to reality.
By forcing her chaotic, terrifying experiences into a structured linguistic narrative, she is organizing her trauma. She is meticulously documenting the atrocities to ensure they are recorded.
Oh, history.
And she is keeping Stephanos psychologically alive in her own mind by continually addressing him as a present entity.
Wow.
However, the tragedy of one-way communication is that it ultimately reinforces the reality of the isolation.
And that profound isolated trauma recorded in 1941 is violently excavated by the literal earth in 2025.
The timelines crash into each other.
This brings us to the most forensic element of our deep dive, the mystery of the bones.
There we go.
Because you cannot read about the mechanics of occupation without eventually unearthing the casualties.
It's inevitable.
A torrential rainstorm hits Foligandros, turning the dry earth into heavy mud. A massive section of the stone retaining wall in Skye's garden completely gives way.
Just a total landslide.
A landslide of soil and rock, and when the dust settles, it reveals a shallow grave hidden within the terrace.
Right there in her garden.
Inside that grave is a horrific mix of both animal and human remains.
The immediate forensic analysis of a mixed grave tells a very specific story.
What does it tell us?
It implies a chaotic, desperate, and rushed burial. When human remains are interred with animal remains without separation, it indicates that the buriers were operating under extreme duress.
You're panicking.
It completely lacks the sanctity, ritual, and time normally afforded to the dead in Greek Orthodox culture. It is a panic burial.
It's the architecture of panic. And it isn't an isolated incident, that earthquake we discussed earlier.
Oh, right, at the other house.
It completely uproots a massive ancient lime tree in the garden of the 6th unclaimed lottery house.
And underneath it.
Caught deep within the tangled root system of that tree is a fully intact human skeleton.
Just tangled in the roots.
But when Skye investigates the site, she pulls out her phone and checks the compass app. She notices a glaring anomaly in the burial orientation.
A very important detail.
In traditional Christian Orthodox burials in Greece, the body is laid to rest facing east toward the rising sun and the resurrection.
Right, that's standard practice.
This skeleton is buried facing northwest.
Facing northwest, directly toward the coast of Italy.
Exactly. The local police forensics team arrives, and the reality they uncover snaps the dual timelines together with devastating force.
It all connects.
The mixed bones in the shallow grave in Skye's yard. They belong to a small goat, Katerina's beloved three-legged Creasy.
Who was casually and cruelly slaughtered by a German general.
Yes. The human bones mixed with the goat belong to an infant baby girl.
So sad.
And the intact skeleton pinned beneath the lime tree, facing Italy, belongs to Giulio Muti.
The Italian soldier.
The Italian soldier whose dog tags Skye found hidden in her landing wall.
The disparate artifacts finally coalesce into a singular, horrific narrative.
It all makes sense now.
The translation of Katerina's final, desperate, unsent letters provides the missing data.
The missing pieces.
The infant girl buried in the wall was Lini's baby. But the father was not Lini's Greek husband.
No, he wasn't.
Lini was repeatedly raped by the Italian soldier Giulio Muti, the man Katerina could only bring herself to refer to in her letters as the pig.
Which is completely understandable.
Katerina herself was subjected to brutal physical beatings at his hands.
The psychological weight of that reality is just suffocating. In her final entries, Katerina documents the culmination of this nightmare.
The climax of the tension.
There was a violent confrontation, an explosive altercation where Giulio Muti was killed. The text is ambiguous as to whether it was a desperate accident during a struggle or a deliberate execution.
But the result is the same.
The result was a dead fascist soldier on the floor. Katerina, Lini, and the women of Anna Maria instantly understood the terrifying mathematics of their situation.
Oh, they knew exactly what was coming.
Under the Axis doctrine of represalia reprisal killings, if an Italian soldier was found dead in a Greek village, the occupying forces would enact a collective massacre.
They would burn the homes and execute dozens of civilians in retaliation.
So they couldn't just bury him in the cemetery. They dragged Moody's body to the cliffs and threw him into the churning Aegean Sea.
Hoping the ocean would solve their problem.
Katerina writes the chilling line, "We gave him to the sea."
If we connect this specific event to the macro-level mystery we introduced at the beginning, it finally explains the central anomaly.
The abandonment of the village.
Exactly. Why was Anna Maria abandoned? The sea refused to keep the secret.
It washed him right back.
The currents of Foligandros washed Giulio Muti's battered corpse right back onto the shoreline. It was Esther, the Jewish refugee, hiding as Costas, who found the body washed up on the rocks.
So what did they do?
She methodically stripped him of his military dog tags and his gold cross to obscure his identity, handing them to Katerina, who entombed them in her wall.
The wall on the landing.
Right. The women then dragged the body and secretly buried it beneath the lime tree, orienting his skull toward his homeland in a final grim gesture.
Wow. Facing Italy.
But the calculus of fear remained. They knew with absolute certainty the Italian command would send squads tearing through the village looking for their missing man.
Right, we're coming.
The sheer, overwhelming terror of a collective reprisal massacre was so absolute that the entire village made a coordinated, unthinkable choice.
To run.
They packed what they could carry and fled into the night, abandoning their ancestral homes entirely.
The trauma was so immense, so radioactive, that it literally emptied a geographic location.
This entire village just gone.
The villagers were forced to become the keepers of a horrific secret.
Yeah.
And the only way to protect it was to leave the houses as silent decoys.
Which is how Skye found them 80 years later.
Exactly. And speaking of trauma returning to the surface, we have to pivot back to 2025.
We do.
Because while the military occupation of Folagandros ended 80 years ago, Skye's personal domestic war is just arriving on the ferry.
It perfectly illustrates how unresolved trauma functions.
You can't outrun it.
You could run to the edge of the world, but if the core mechanism of the trauma isn't dismantled, it will inevitably track you down.
And it tracks her down through the media.
Ah, yes.
You remember Adam Beaumont, the wealthy Park Avenue guy treating the island like a playground?
Unfortunately, yes.
He has a journalist friend who starts sniffing around the police tape and the bones in Skye's garden.
Such a betrayal of privacy.
That journalist bypasses all ethics and sells the story to the highest bidder. A major, highly circulated Greek Sunday newspaper, Protothema, runs a massively viral, sensationalized expose about the murder house lottery scheme.
The worst possible outcome for Skye.
And plastered right there, in high-definition ink for the entire world to see, is Skye's full legal name and a clear photograph of her face.
The invisibility cloak she sacrificed everything to weave is vaporized in an instant.
It's just gone.
Her carefully managed digital and physical footprint is broadcast globally. It is the ultimate violation of her sanctuary.
And that broadcast acts as a beacon for the monster.
Enter Martin Lockhart.
Skye's husband. We finally get the full, horrifying picture of what Skye has been running from.
He is terrifying.
On paper, Martin is a successful pilot. He is charming, handsome, and impeccably dressed.
The perfect gentleman.
Right. But behind closed doors, he is a textbook, coercively controlling sociopath.
A textbook abuser.
He sees the article, tracks her location to Folagandros, and arrives at her door. But he is a tactical abuser. He doesn't just kick the door down.
No, that would be too obvious.
He brings a weapon. He brings Skye's mother, Cassandra.
Which is so calculated.
Cassandra is this highly critical, emotionally distant matriarch who has always bought into Martin's charm and viewed him as the perfect gentleman.
He knows she loved him.
Martin uses her as a literal Trojan horse. He uses her presence to force his way inside Skye's house, fully weaponizing the knowledge that Skye is socially conditioned to never cause a dramatic scene in front of her mother.
We have to analyze the psychology of this specific tactic because it is the hallmark of advanced coercive control.
Oh, absolutely. Break it down for us.
Martin isn't just manipulating Skye. He is manipulating her entire social reality. By bringing Cassandra, he weaponizes social propriety and familial expectation.
He's trapping her with manners.
He knows exactly how the psychological locks in Skye's mind operate. He isolates her by making her own mother an unwitting warden.
That's sick.
He invades the physical sanctuary she has spent months rebuilding, immediately suffocating the space with his presence.
I look at Martin's arrival, and I can't help but draw a direct line to the Italian and German occupation of the island in the 1940s.
The parallels are definitely there.
The scale is different, but the mechanics of tyranny are identical. Both scenarios feature a hostile invading force infiltrating a sanctuary.
Right.
Both demand absolute submission from the occupants. Both heavily restrict physical movement. We learn that back in London, Martin literally used to lock Skye in rooms to control her.
Unbelievable.
And both utilize devastating psychological warfare. Martin is so twisted that early in their relationship, he completely fabricated a story about having a dead sister named Beatrice.
Just to manipulate her.
Just to manufacture a trauma bond and make Skye feel a false sense of intimacy and pity for him.
Fabricating a dead sibling to engineer empathy is a staggering level of emotional predation.
It's pure evil.
But if we look closely at Martin's current motivations on the island, we see the cracks in his facade.
Because he's not actually that powerful.
He hasn't flown across Europe because he is driven by some obsessive romantic love for his wife. His motivation is remarkably pathetic and highly pragmatic.
He's there for a watch.
A watch.
Before Skye finally gathered the courage to flee London, she took one thing of value. A massively expensive Rolex watch that she believed belonged to Martin, intending to pawn it to fund her escape.
Which is fair enough, really.
But the irony is beautiful. The watch didn't belong to Martin. It belonged to a highly dangerous, incredibly powerful mogul named Caspar Newbolt.
A real bad guy.
Martin is essentially a pawn who is holding the watch, and now Newbolt is ruthlessly extorting Martin, threatening to ruin his life if the watch isn't returned.
He's terrified of Caspar Newbolt.
Martin isn't a mastermind right now. He is a cornered rat who needs to bully his wife into saving his own skin.
The power dynamic is incredibly fragile. Martin relies on the illusion of total control, but his actual position is built on terror.
And then the environment itself intervenes to tip the scales.
The island steps in.
The island literally shifts. While Martin is in Skye's living room, systematically trying to dismantle her reality and menace her into handing over the watch, Foligandros experiences another seismic tremor.
Another earthquake.
It's a sudden, violent earthquake. The floor literally drops out from under Martin. He loses his balance, violently hits his head on the stone floor, and concusses himself.
Knocked out cold.
It is a brief, crucial window of incapacitation, and in that tiny sliver of time, the fear breaks.
She finds her voice.
Skye finally, for the first time in her life, turns to her mother and unloads the unfiltered, horrifying truth. She exposes the locked doors, the psychological torture, the financial control, and the completely fabricated dead sister, Beatrice.
This is the pivotal psychological rupture in the narrative.
How so?
We have to unpack the profound shift in Cassandra.
The mother.
Yes. For Skye's entire life, Cassandra has operated as a critic, constantly questioning her daughter's choices and validating the abuser.
Taking Martin's side.
But once the veneer of Martin's gentlemanly charm is definitively shattered by the sheer volume of truth, a biological maternal instinct overrides years of social propriety.
Mama Bear comes out.
Cassandra transitions in seconds from a skeptical bystander to a fierce strategic protector.
I love this part.
She takes Martin's phone while he is incapacitated, and she and Skye find the digital proof. The threatening extortion emails from Caspar Newbolt.
They find the kill switch.
They do.
They realize the emails are absolute leverage. Cassandra steps directly into the line of fire. When Martin comes to, she coldly informs him that the game is over.
She doesn't hold back.
She essentially blackmails the blackmailer. She tells Martin that if he does not immediately agree to a completely amicable divorce, sign over whatever assets are required, and disappear from Skye's life forever.
She will ruin him.
She will personally forward the hard proof of his theft and extortion directly to Caspar Newbolt and the authorities.
And Martin folds immediately.
Martin is utterly defeated by his own cowardice. He packs his bags, retreats to the ferry, and leaves Foligandros forever.
Good riddance.
Skye secures her legal freedom and sole ownership of the house.
The mechanics of her victory beautifully illustrate the antidote to coercive control.
Truth.
Truth and community. Authoritarian abusers, whether they are fascists in 1941 or abusive husbands in 2025, rely entirely on isolation and silence.
They need you to be alone.
They thrive in the dark. By finally communicating the truth and leaning on the communal network, she has built her mother, Cassandra, Joy, who literally offers to physically fight Martin.
I would pay to see Joy fight Martin.
Oh, me too. And Andreas, who races to the property after the tremor to check on her Skye, dismantles the architecture of Martin's control.
She lets the light in.
The injection of truth into the community sets her free, functioning in exact parallel to how unearthing the historical truth of the bones finally set the village of Enomaria free from its 80-year purgatory.
So what does this all mean? When we zoom out and look at the final moments of the source material, there's this quiet, incredibly resonant scene.
The blue door.
Yes, Andreas arrives at Skye's house, not with cement or scaffolding, but with a simple tin of paint. He paints her newly installed front door a very specific, soft, velvety shade of blue.
It's like a gorgeous image.
He explains to her that in the Cycladic tradition, this specific color represents the endless sky, and more importantly, it signifies a fresh start.
It is the architectural baptism of the house.
Ooh, architectural baptism.
The grueling physical reconstruction of the stone and mortar has finally aligned with the psychological reconstruction of her mind.
They match now.
The house is no longer a ruin holding a nightmare. It is a fortress holding a survivor.
Because whether you are looking at Katerina Sideris staring down fascist generals and starvation in 1941, or Skye Lockhart staring down a sociopathic abuser in 2025, Foligandros, the Iron Isle, demands one thing above all else.
Absolute resilience.
Absolute resilience. You cannot survive the sheer force of that environment if your foundation is fragile. The physical houses and the human beings who inhabit them both require incredibly deep, unshakable foundations to withstand the literal and metaphorical earthquakes that attempt to tear them down.
And that profound resilience leaves an indelible mark on the historical record. Which brings us to one final, fascinating thread to pull.
Okay, what is it?
Deep in the concluding chapters, we are given a stunning piece of information regarding the local contractor, Andreas.
The frappe master himself.
Right. We learn that his grandmother, an elderly woman named Elpida, was originally born in Anomaria.
Wait, really? She was from the abandoned village?
Yes. She was one of the infants born during the terror of the occupation. For 80 years, she has maintained a fortress of absolute silence regarding the war.
She never talked about it.
Never. But upon seeing the physical photographs of Katerina's letters, seeing the tangible proof that the past survived, she finally makes the decision to speak.
Oh, wow.
She begins to verbally document the truth of what happened. It leaves us with a vital concept to ponder.
Which is?
When the human generation that lived through massive historical atrocities inevitably passes away, the physical artifacts, the letters stuffed inside a chimney, the rusted saber buried in the garden, the bones hidden beneath the roots of a lime tree, they become our only remaining witnesses.
They're all we have left to tell the story.
So I ask you to consider this. Think about the walls of the room you are sitting in right now. If the architecture of your own home could suddenly testify about the trauma, the joy, and the desperate secrets of the people who lived there 80 years ago, what story would it tell?
Wow, that is a deeply haunting thought to leave on. The realization that we don't really own our homes. We're just temporary custodians of the spaces that will outlive us. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. Until next time, keep looking behind the walls.